It's a real pleasure to be here. Thank you for your kind words, Mr. Rai. And I'm glad you reminded me of the topic, because actually I had no idea I was supposed to speak on the topic. And I was told in the car drive over here that the topic I'm supposed to speak on is the idea that people have about police and policing, and what do they expect from police and policing. So I'm a little taken aback that I have to suddenly speak on this topic. But let me confess that in any case, I'm not a very good speaker when I'm given a topic to speak. I'm not someone who's good at making speeches. I'm not someone who's good at... because I often feel that it's extremely presumptuous of me to assume that people would want to hear my opinion on policing or what people expect from policing. I think it's extremely presumptuous of me to assume that. So let me try my best. Let me actually say something else really. I think that all the youngsters over here today are extremely bright and intelligent. And I'm also told that there are a number of senior IPS officers who've been in the services for the last 15 years or so. So I think all of you probably have a very good idea already about what the impression that people have of policing, or the view in the general public is about policing. I don't think I can add any light to that. What I can say is that it gives me great pleasure and pride to be here, because I feel that here I'm in a room full of people who we all look to with a lot of hope and with a lot of pride as people who have taken on such a big responsibility. It's a huge responsibility, and the fact that you've chosen this responsibility makes me feel that very happy to be amongst all of you. It's certainly a responsibility that I don't know whether I would have had the courage to take up. Whatever little I know about policing comes from Sarfarosh and the film that I did where I played an IPS officer. And I must say that scene where I say I chose to be an IPS over an IAS always gets me brownie points with IPS officers. And I get taken to the cleaners by all IAS officers. They don't like me for that scene. But when I did the film, from my own personal point of view, I want to say actually a couple of things. One is my own viewpoint, sir. Before I did Sarfarosh, I think my impression of the police was not very good, to be very honest. I think like a lot of people in the general public, I had a feeling that, the police doesn't do much, and thanks to a lot of the Hindi films, we show the police arriving right at the very end. So I'm sure that doesn't help to the cause of policing. So I think I had that kind of impression, which was not very positive. But when I actually did research on Sarfarosh, and I met a lot of IPS officers, and I met a lot of police field officers and inspectors, and even havaldars and constables, that's when I realized what actually policing is all about. But I was, I think, one of the few privileged people who got that inside view because I was trying to research that topic. And it's a job which is on many levels, I mean, it's a very difficult job. It's extremely demanding. You don't get a thank you from anyone. Most of the time you don't get a thank you, because when you're doing your job and you're doing it well, nobody knows about it. So the fact that there's no news is the fact that you're doing your job, and when there is bad news is when you get picked on. Arey, ye ho gaya, where was the police? Why did the police do this? Why didn't the cops do this? So you get all the brickbats, and very rarely do you get the bouquets. So that's the kind of job it is. Often I compare it in my film world, I compare it to the job of producer. When a film becomes a big success, the writer says, I wrote a great story, the director says, I made a great film, the star says, it's all because of me. The poor producer is left hanging. And when the film doesn't do well, all the creative team says, प्रोड्यूसर टेक नहीं था यार, प्रोड्यूसर की वजह से फिल्म डब्बा बन गई. He didn't let us work as a creative team. So it's often I compare it to the producer's job in our film world. So I think that's the time when I got a bit of a inkling as to what policing is all about, and how tough the job is, and how demanding the job is, and how complicated the job is, because it's not just, it's not merely law and order. You're also dealing with human beings, and you're dealing with situations which are very volatile, often very emotional situations. Sometimes, you're yourself confused when what is right and what is wrong. How strong can you take a step or can't? So these are all very delicate situations which, from the outside, people often don't understand how delicate a position you are in when you're faced with a situation. And here I want to switch to, instead of saying what impression people have, I want to tell, I want to talk a bit about myself, because I don't know whether I'm equipped to speak about the police. But I think I'm equipped to speak a little bit about myself, since, as Sir pointed out, I'm 47 and I know myself for the last 47 years. So I'll try and speak a little about myself, because I think that's the best I can do. And maybe from that, so what I try to do in my own life is, I do what makes me happy. And that's the thing I follow. And when I say happy, I mean from inside. जो हम बोलते हैं ना, मन, आपका मन क्या सोच रहा है. So I try and do what my heart says and what makes me happy, and that's what is the guiding force for me. And often it is a very illogical decision. Perhaps all the decisions in my life have been extremely illogical and extremely impractical. Every time when I entered the film industry, there were actors who were doing, at that time, 30 to 40 films simultaneously at one time. I'm not exaggerating, this is the actual figure. I think Mr. Anil Kapoor was doing the least, he was doing 33. And how bad the situation was is indicated by the fact that the Producers Association, called NPA, had come out with a rule or a law, whatever you want to call it, wherein they said that no producer will sign any actor who's doing more than 12 films. Now, the fact that you need a rule for that indicates how bad the situation was then. So when I decided to do 1 or 2 films at one time, I was told that, your career will end in 6 months. My mother was very concerned about me. She said, an actor's life is limited. 4 years, 5 years, if you're lucky, 10 years. So please make the most of your life, your earning time. This is your earning time. And I used to look at her and I could see a lot of love and concern on her face. She was very concerned for me. She wanted me to make money. And I don't think my mom is very materialistic. But it was just a basic fear in her that her child would waste away his earning years in impractical things. And she constantly told me that ये वक्त है, इसको ऐसे मत करो आमिर. And I used to see that she loves me a lot and saying this with a lot of care, but I could never agree with her. So I never followed her, much to her dismay. I could never listen to her and do practically the right things to do, make a lot of money while I'm successful. And so I took the decisions that excited me, and the decisions that I believed in, some of them professional, some of them even ethical or moral, when I felt that I should not be doing this. And no matter how beneficial it is to me, I don't think I should be doing this. And I decided not to. So those are the decisions that I have lived by. I have lived by my own understanding of what I feel I should be doing or should not be doing. And what I can say at the end of almost 25 years of being in the films?